possibility of some disclosure, some confidential information that was passed on to the newspapers. Chip, isn't that against the rules and laws of ethics to do something like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think what Councilman Price is referring to is the exchange that occurred on February 4th. And in an email where you did disclose a confidential memorandum. So, and as I pointed out in my follow-up, I think I just pointed out the issue with that, and it's really up to the council, full council, to determine whether that's a concern of theirs. With respect
I think
to
it's
the
a great concern. I think because there's been an awful lot going on in that here lately, it seems like.
Well, I think you're going to have to recuse yourself from that because this involved you. And I think the other thing is you asked me at the meeting if in fact that in turn, if I had any correspondence that spoke specifically to any action that you deemed that I could not do unilaterally. And I did not have that available, but I made that available to you. So as far as I'm concerned, you waived your rights.
Well, let me go ahead and explain what happened. So, because that all sounds very confusing.
It's not confusing. You asked that night, Chip.
I received, well, if I may, if the council will allow me, I'll explain what Mr. Councilman Price is referring to. So after the last meeting, I got an email from you, Mr. Mayor, February 4th, and you addressed this email to me, and you copied the council members, and you consulted 2 representatives of the Kent County News.
Mm-hmm.
And you went on to talk about what happened at the meeting, but you attached some documents. And one of the documents you attached was a memorandum dated August 12, 2013, from me to the mayor and council, and the memorandum is clearly marked confidential attorney-client communication.
But did that
So
memorandum not go to the public? Did it not go to the public?
Yeah, comment, Bobby. Let's let him finish.
All right, well, let him finish.
Please let him finish.
So, by copying members or individuals other than council and attaching a document marked confidential, that obviously undermines the confidence or confidentiality of the memo. I just pointed out that, you know, that should be concerning because it's really for the council, any communications that are marked a confidential attorney-client communication, the intention is they should remain confidential. Now, it is the client's right to waive any privilege, and the client in this case is the council. So it's not the attorney's right to waive, meaning if I mark a document a confidential attorney-client communication, I have no right as the town attorney to waive that privilege and disclose that document. You all have the right to waive that privilege and disclose any documents that are marked, but that waiver has to occur by a majority because you all function as a whole. So I just pointed out that, you know, I think you have to be very careful and respect, you know, the documents that are marked that way. Now, if a council member wants to pursue that more because they're a member of this council and it's really their privilege to waive, not one member, then that's really up to them to pursue it further.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't that letter also go to the Plumbing Commission?
I don't know that it did.
It did because you sent it to them, and that's where, if you recall, the follow-up response that came from the Plumbing Commission.
Disclosing confidential right in the meeting.
But it's already been put out there to the public, Jeff. You know that.
No, I don't.
No, you do know that because you got a response back from them, the Plumbing Commission.
I've said my piece.
Well, one thing is it's clear why the Chestertown Spy is here tonight.
One thing clear what?
Why the Chestertown Spy is here tonight. They haven't been here in several months. They're always here when there's a controversial subject to slam someone.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of email going on back and forth that violates a lot of the ethics that the town has set forth. And
there's been many ethical things broken in this
I think it ought to
including
be
from
turned over to the state's attorney and let him decide what should be done with it and done about it.
I think,
And I put that in form of a motion.
I think as Susan states, there's been a number of things, and it's the reason why we want to create an ethics commission is because there's a lot of things that should go before this group.
Butch, I happen to agree totally with you, because the confidential attorney-client communication, once it's sent, even as having elected, if you can't even impose that. So you do have
But
a
we don't
second,
know where
Butch.
Robert
All
Strong's
right.
gonna go with it,
We have a motion and a second.
don't we, guys?
So I'll bring up the other information that Chip has in turn, he knows that exists, that's out there. So, I mean, the board can, if that's what the wishes of the board is, again, there's more to it than just that.
That's
So
right.
we all know that, and if that's the game that you want to play, that's fine.
Well, let me just address that, because you're saying that in public. I've been very clear what happened.
You asked me
said-
for, you asked me
I
to
didn't
in
ask
turn
to
show
put- no.
you correspondence.
No, I
Chip.
did not.
You
I
did.
didn't ask- I
You
did
said
not
at that
ask-
meeting to show you, and that's why I in turn put it before the press, because I could not present it
Well,
that night.
thank you for admitting what you've done, because I did not ask you to send confidential, attorney-client privileged information to the public, okay? I did not ask you to do that.
Public was here,
You
you asked
elected-
for it that
you-
night, and I
no.
did not have it in front of me.
Let's just be crystal clear, Mayor. You on your own decided to send an email to me.
Per your request. That's how the email.
I did not
was-
You
ask
didn't
for
have to
anything.
carbon copy it to the
Okay,
Kent County News.
I didn't expect anything from you after the meeting, frankly.
I could
You-
not in turn produce the documents that you stated that night as we tried.
I did not
and
ask
still
you-
have not been able to get down to the bottom of those letters
The
issues.
bottom point
Be
here
that as it
is
may,
that
even
you
if-
carbon copied it to the Kent County News.
Even if I did ask you for anything, I certainly didn't suggest, make sure you copy members of the Kent County News when you send me a
Kent County
copy.
News was here that night when you said to me,
Oh
showed
my
you some
gosh.
documentation that in turn showed that there was some.
So to make your
unilateral-
point for your own benefit,
Not
you
my
make sure
benefit,
that
you asked.
For the
No,
public.
You
no,
asked.
no.
Public's
And it was for the public's
For the
benefit
public's
because
benefit.
you asked.
For you just said, for your benefit, to make sure they knew what you were saying was true, you made sure the Kent News was copied on a confidential
Did we not have a
memorandum.
discussion the night before?
That's
over what was
irrelevant. The
It is
point
not
is, you
irrelevant. It's the whole thing
disclosed, the
centers around
point
it.
is, you disclosed the confidential
The whole
document.
thing centers around it, Chip.
And-
Mr.
and-
Mayor, we have a motion and a second on this table. Let's move on.
All right, all in favor? Any further discussion?
It's just another,
Sure it
it's
is.
another
Sure it is.
witch hunt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Are you happy, Mr. Whitman?
Yes, I am.
Good.
Next is the new business, and this deals with the auditor.